Hello, and welcome to a special presentation here on LMTV. I'm Brian Hoppy, Chair of the Township's Environmental Advisory Council, or EAC. In September 2018, the EAC presented a public sustainability workshop. The discussions that evening explored various aspects of sustainability, and we hope served as a launching point for a much broader conversation about how Lower Merion can meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Back in April 2018, the EAC presented an environmental action plan to the Board of Commissioners. The plan is ambitious, and it contains numerous initiatives that will guide the EAC's activities for the next 5 years. One of the plan's initiatives recognizes the need to increase the township's resiliency, further improve environmental quality, and develop a more holistic approach with regards to sustainability within the township. That served as a driving force to conduct the sustainability workshop. LMTV was on hand to record the workshop, and we'd like to present the evening's second segment now, Examples of Sustainable Energy Planning. Enjoy.
My perspective and why David asked me to come up here was from that of a sort of Fortune 500 company. I've worked for a couple of them in sustainability, and I think there are a couple of ways I want to go about it. Why do Fortune 500s care about sustainability? Why are we up here? Why do businesses care about this? And really, I think it comes down to four things, four pillars. Number one is our customers. Our customers are asking for this. Oh, here we go. Great. So again, what are the four things? Why do we care about sustainability? And again, customers, I think investors, number two, which was touched on earlier, the communities we operate in, and then also our employees. Obviously, customers, right? We see the population growth is substantial, but it's also urbanizing. So you have all these people that are coming to cities and needing new housing, and there is a demand for green building. And as a building product supplier, we want to be at the forefront of that, right? We understand LEED. We have our North American headquarters is in Malvern, beautiful LEED Platinum building. So we understand that what we do can have a material effect. The products that we make can have a material effect. And so that aligns our incentives to care about sustainability. Investors, it was touched on earlier, right? Many Fortune 500 companies now are producing public reports on their environmental impacts. They're not doing that for fun and to make you feel good. They're doing it because investors are demanding it. They want to know what your exposure is to climate change and your supply chain and where you're getting your materials and where you're getting your energy. They want to know all of that to assess, is this company going to be around for another 5 years or another 353 years? Because that's the investments they're making. So they're asking us those questions. So we're aligning with our investors. As I mentioned, we're in 130 manufacturing locations in the U.S. and Canada. Actually, most of them are in rural communities. Usually we're the number one jobs provider in a town that we're operating in. And so we recognize, even on a very local basis, what our impact is, where our emissions might go, or the water that we're taking out of the ground to make our products. We recognize our impact and, again, want to align those going forward. And then we think about our employees and what we're hearing from the new generation coming to our companies, the people that are in our companies that are asking, how can I make an impact outside my job? I don't want to just do accounting on drywall. I want to understand where that drywall is going, how it's made, and why it's a positive thing in my life that I'm working on this. We hear that all the time. And so actually this is a picture here of our employees winning an award. We nominate our plants throughout the world to compete on energy and water and waste reduction. And then we give them these really cool WWE-style belts, the winners of our WWE wastewater energy awards. And they dress up and they have the music and all that. And it's an engagement topic that always wins. These things always win with employees. And so we love that. And there's our CEO actually giving out the award. So
and who's he standing next to?
That'd be me. No, I got lucky there. Yeah, exactly. So how do we manage it? As a business, this is, I think, easily transferable to other businesses, big and small, but also communities we live in. I've lived in Lower Merion now for 3 years. I'm a happy, healthy resident. My wife is here. She works here as well in the community. We have an 11-month-old boy. So this means the world to me. And I have to say, when I saw the rain this afternoon, I thought this isn't going to go well, David. But I am so heartened to see you all here. So thank you very much for coming. But I want to say, how do we manage this, right? And the first thing is you have to set ambitious goals. So I think it's great that the EAC and the EAP, we have a 5-year plan, but we need to commit to those. Those are just things that we're suggesting the board does. We need to make a public commitment and set a path forward. That's how we do it in business. We have goals, 2025 goals on energy, water, waste, and carbon emissions. Invest in renewable energy, right? We heard about this. We're doing this in a big way, and you see businesses do this in a huge way. We're not first movers here. This is the growth in the last few years of companies investing in gigawatts worth of renewable energy. You see Fortune 500 companies on there. Of course, you see the tech companies. They've got more money than everybody. But you also see small manufacturing businesses, healthcare businesses. They are recognizing their impacts, and they are investing in their future on how to do that. We set a price on carbon. We talked a little bit about carbon pricing earlier. We actually have one as a company, so that when we make an investment in a project or an acquisition, we actually apply a cost of carbon to that to understand what is the long-term impact. Because we believe that there should and will be pricing of carbon in regulation. We deal with it in California in our plants there, in Canada, in Ontario, in Quebec, in Europe. We recognize this is a thing, so we actually price it into our decisions. We create sustainable products. I mentioned this earlier. Again, we are hearing this demand. One of the coolest products we have is the Sage glass. It's an electrochromatic glass that shades automatically, so you don't have to have window shades. It reads the light outside, so you're not getting that glare, but you're also absorbing the heat when you need the heat. We recognize that this is the future of where products are going in the building space. We invest in energy efficiency, and I think, again, I know the township has taken steps to evaluate that. I hope they move forward and confirm the findings and actually join on the projects. But usually these projects, and I have to also reiterate this, we're not doing this out of the goodness of our heart. This is a good investment. LEDs are a good investment. Energy efficiency pays off better than many, many other things pay off. You can so easily, I'm an engineer by training. I don't know if you can tell that because I'm nervous and shaking up here, but you start with a project and you know the results you're going to get out of energy efficiency. So I would, again, really encourage the board to consider that moving forward. And finally, we connect our communities and our employees. Of course, we have our own internal awards, but we also like to tell the world about what we're doing. So when we gave out these awards, we actually contacted our local media and the different environments that we act in and told them about that. The newspapers came out to our remote plants in outside Buffalo to take pictures of our guys that did so much with water. I think that's an awesome way that we can not only engage our people, but show the community that we are committed to this together. And I think our community here in Lower Merion can do the same thing. So I would put this out as a recommendation. Many businesses are like ours. We're not just doing it because we're a French company again. We are not leading on this. We are definitely just part of this movement forward. And I would encourage, again, all Lower Merion to jump on board because we can do this together. Thank you.
I'm Vice President of Practical Energy Solutions. We're an energy efficiency and renewable energy consulting firm in Westchester. And we work with municipalities and schools across the region. Our biggest client is the City of Philadelphia Mayor's Office of Sustainability. We're in year 7 with them as their chief technical advisor to help them reduce energy use in their 900-plus municipal facilities by 30%. I'm also mayor of Westchester. And thank you. Hi, Lorna. And I came to this position because I've been working with the borough for almost 2 decades now, largely on sustainability issues. So when speaking with you, I just want to say that I know how difficult this is, because when you're involved in a daily basis in local government, you put fires out all day long. And it is really, really hard to step back and take a long-term planning perspective on much of anything, because you are just constantly bombarded with all kinds of questions and issues and concerns from residents. So it requires discipline. There's no question about it. But what I'd like to say, and I think this is increasingly true, is that when it comes to absorbing the acute and attritional costs of climate change, municipalities are on the front line. They are the suppliers of first and last resort when it comes to absorbing these costs. And if we don't take that step back, we could really be blindsided. So to me, I think that's why this is really so incredibly important. I'd like to take you on a little journey of how our sustainability planning process has evolved in the borough, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can learn from our mistakes. In October of 2006, I proposed to our then Borough Council a committee which we called BLUER, and it stands for Borough Leaders United for Emissions Reduction. It's a mouthful. But what we did was we followed a structure that was put in place by a group called ICLEI, which is the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, and it was a 5-step framework for reducing greenhouse gas emissions in our community. So the first thing we did was a community-wide greenhouse gas inventory, and we were the first in the region to do so. We worked with PICO for 1.5 years on methodology just to try to figure that out. We set a greenhouse gas reduction goal of 10% over 2005 baseline year levels. We wrote a climate action plan to achieve our goal. We implemented the plan, and then we evaluated our results with another community-wide inventory. And after 8 years, we met our goal. And this was an all-volunteer committee. So we had a lot of commitment, and we worked very hard. So we realized, though, and I'd like to acknowledge Jim Wiley in the back. He's been a member of BLUER, and he's still very active in Westchester's sustainability community, and he's with the Sierra Club, too, now. Yeah, Jim. So we realized that, you know, we were kind of burned out after 8 years of all volunteer work, that we had to institutionalize this work in the borough. So we proposed that they hire a sustainability coordinator, which they did. And they also ordinanced a advisory group. BLUER was kind of an ad hoc committee, but they ordinanced a group to advise Borough Council on all things sustainable, and that's called the Sustainability Advisory Committee. And I chaired that for the first couple of years, or maybe year, I can't remember, to get it off the ground. We also, when we redid our comprehensive plan in Westchester, we have an entire section on environmental sustainability, and we made our goals very, very clear. We talked about walkability, we talked about trees, we talked about recycling, we talked about composting, and we talked about energy. So as a consequence of our institutionalization of our sustainability priorities in Westchester, we then took to our Borough Council the Sierra Club Ready for 100 resolution, which is essentially a statement saying that our community wants to go to 100% renewable energy. And we set goals to go to 100% renewable electricity by 2035 and 100% renewable energy in total by 2050. And that passed our Borough Council unanimously. And so then we started to talk, okay, how are we going to do this? And we realized that the way to do it would be to try to work with neighboring municipalities and do some multi-municipality planning, get our municipalities working together so that we could leverage our resources. And Jim Wiley was instrumental in starting what we now call the Chester County Clean Energy Leaders Coalition. And we are working with elected officials from neighboring municipalities And let's see, Kennett Township, Downingtown, and Phoenixville have all now also passed the Sierra Ready for 100 resolutions. And we are working together, and East Bradford is about to, so we're working together. The other thing we've done is we've taken this to our Westchester Council of Governments. This is a pre-structured group that has existed for a long time, and it's all of the municipalities that surround Westchester Borough. And we wrote a draft RFQ, request for qualifications, to ask them if they would join us in exploring the marketplace for an energy planner who could help us write a very solid, actionable plan to achieve these goals, clean electricity by 2035. And at our first meeting, our first proposal, they said yes. So we're putting that RFQ out on the streets. We went with an RFQ first before an RFP, which is a more formalized request for specific proposals, because we want to gauge what's out there. We want to get all of the experts out in the field to give us ideas so that then we can formulate a really solid RFP. So we are working with our local municipalities. We're going to leverage our resources, and we're going to get this plan done. There are currently 6 cities across the country that are already 100%. So if someone tells you it can't be done, that's not true. I'm also a professional in the field, and I know it can be done. We know it can be done. It is being done. There are 83 cities, 5 counties, and 2 states that have also committed to 100% clean energy. The other thing that really excites me is that we believe that because we're going to regionalize this effort, that we can help create jobs. For every 1 gas pipeline job, there are 7 jobs in the clean energy industry. The clean energy jobs are better, they pay more, and they last longer. So we are working with our community center. They might create a workforce training program, and we're going to try to tie all of these pieces together for the benefit of our community. So that's been our journey. I do also want to say that we, just last week, our Borough Council voted unanimously to ban plastic bags in the borough. Nice. And we have our restaurants working on a straw-free campaign, and we've reduced straw usage by about 50% simply by not putting them in the glass unless they're requested. So we're working on that as well. So the last thing I want to say is that there's a lot that needs to be done on the state level to assist municipalities, and we have some lobbying work to do, and I'd be happy to talk about that later if you're interested. So thank you.
So I come at this from, I worked at Pepper for a while, and then I was general counsel at a large company like Ryan's Brandywine Realty Trust, where I served as a lawyer there. And so the context is a little bit strange. So, why would a lawyer, why would a real estate company, care about this stuff? And the reality was, I'm speaking for myself, we didn't. We weren't evil, but we just kind of went about our daily lives and sort of, it didn't really matter. People were talking, this was kind of the 90s, 2000s, and this wasn't really a topic of conversation for all intents and purposes unless you were a wacko or a tree hugger or a granola eater or, gluten-free, for God's sakes. And so... And that was later, of course. The gluten-free didn't even exist then. That was in the corner of the grocery store. It became a bit of a thing at the company on how could we do this in a way when we were thinking about building buildings, because that's what we did. We kind of bought buildings, we adaptively reused them. Sometimes we went out into the suburbs and we actually built on, green areas. How could we do that in a better way that was less destructive to the environment? And how could we buy materials from Saint-Gobain and from others that were less impactful to the people that were inside, the space? Because as you heard probably earlier, you spend 90% of your time indoors. So air quality, light, water, that stuff that we never really thought about before. We built good buildings, but we never really thought about that stuff How could we be more mindful about that, and how could we provide a better product that people should care about if they really thought about it? They weren't thinking about it yet, but we were hopeful that they would start to care about that. And so that became a thing. So I started to talk to some people I know in our community, and those people were, some political types. And so it started in New Jersey, it's county government. So you guys have a little bit different in Pennsylvania, but in our county government, I started chirping at our freeholders are in county government. And so to their credit, they said, you know what, this is important, and we're going to get a bunch of people together, so let's kind of get all of our parks people together. And for a while, we sat down in a room, and nobody had any idea what we were talking about. They really had no idea. Yet they sat there for months, and we talked about it, and there was the internet, so it was like not the pre-dawn of the internet era. We did have the internet, but this was before anybody really was talking about this stuff. And to their credit, we kind of came up with what this became, which was a plan. And the plan then became kind of a measurable outcome, which felt like so long ago, and now it's due to be updated. It's so long. So it's like 6 years ago this thing got started. They're about to update the program and measure kind of these outcomes, and every year they measure it. So they focused on the things that you talked about and you heard about earlier. They focused on energy. They focused on kind of impact to transportation. They focused on waste. They focused on water conservation, landscaping and the outcome of landscaping and kind of chemicals on the water, food, and they also focused on household practices. And so it became a bit of what is it that we want to goal set on? A lot of conversation around that, but ultimately I just said, enough, guys. Let's just put something on a piece of paper. It's going to be wrong. Whatever the hell we put on a piece of paper, it's going to be wrong, but let's do it. And we ultimately put it on a piece of paper, and ultimately that will get updated now. And they did it. That then, once we got frustrated and done with the county, we then focused on the town. And so the town was less than thrilled to have us come and sit down. And so, same conversation, which is, again, the county government stays for a little bit longer. They've been kind of ensconced there for years. The township people move a little bit more, and so they're a little bit more nervous about having this conversation. Yet they've been there for 7 years or whatever. And so we sit down, and they don't really want to sit down. They don't really want to talk about this because they're nervous. And, why should they listen to a bunch of rabble-rousers talking about, green stuff? And it's that conversation that you heard earlier. It's how can we do stuff in a better way that's better for your constituents? It's not about votes, even though it kind of is. Is it relevant to the constituency base, both seniors and little ones and the 70,000 people that were in Cherry Hill? So how many people are in Lower Marion? So similar sizing. So a little bit different, but I suspect similar demographic relative to age and population. And so it became a conversation on what goals do we want to focus on? And at this point, it was a couple of years later, and so we had the benefit of the county plan. And we had the benefit of nobody had been publicly flogged for actually having goals that we knew of. And there were towns out there that had actually published their plan. And they were being slightly rewarded for it. And so, to their credit, the town actually said, okay. Now, it took a while. But the town actually said, come back with a plan. And we sat down with a group of people, much like this, and everyone had different ideas, and we hashed out kind of a township plan. And that plan's now online, and it takes them slow to kind of measure it, but they focus on similar but different issues. So it's health and wellness that takes into account food and fitness and walking trails and air quality, so they measure air quality a little bit around the township. Pesticide use, so they talk about pesticides in the township, and they try to change kind of when the township was mowing the lawns and the kind of islands for the grasses, for the cars are, not throwing out a bunch of pesticides. Then they talked about homes and buildings and transportation. So what were we doing in the buildings the township owned? But then almost more importantly, what were we doing in the houses? How could we communicate with people in their own house so that they could learn and find an easy resource online, and we would communicate about it, but also to the building owners. We have this recycling law, but nobody understands what the hell it is, and they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and everyone's got their own, everyone gets their trash picked up in the town by, a particular trash hauler, but all the businesses are doing their own thing, and nobody knows what the hell to do. And so how do you fix that? Leadership, education, and training. So how do we train the leaders of the community? That one they're working on 3 years later. No comment there. And so neighborhood vitality and ecology. So again, talking to the different neighborhood leaders in each of the neighborhoods in the community. So again, I suspect you have different neighborhoods here, and so there's different rabble-rousers, loudmouths in each of these neighborhoods. How do you get to them so they can get their messages out? So this was kind of PTA focused as well as kind of civic group focused. And then empowerment through arts and culture. So making sure that we touched base with the arts and culture groups to deal with the same thing. So you had county, then we focused on kind of the town, and then within the town, the school district is a different entity altogether. And so our school district has 19 schools, like 1.5 million square feet, and they do their own thing, to the chagrin of some, many. And so it's it's on the same tax bill, but that's a big piece of our tax bill. And so that becomes a bit of a consternation for a lot of people in the town. So their buildings are a little bit old, probably about the same age as your buildings, 60s, 50s, and they haven't really been touched in quite a long time. And so there's a lot of money that goes into the schools in certain ways that people don't like, and the taxes, a lot go towards the schools. And so being efficient in the use of energy in a school, it goes right back to the taxpayer once people understand that. Nobody really focuses there, and that's a big spend in the budget that nobody pays attention to. So the ability to put better lighting systems, more controls into the school system can save us $1.5 million a year. But if you don't pay attention to it, it's just kind of money out the flue, literally. And so we started to pay attention to those issues within the school and help the school put together a program for sustainability, for not only helping the teachers understand what we were talking about, but also the staff and the janitors and the people that were coming into the schools. And so it became a bit of a holistic, discussion point. Some was better than others, some was more successful than others, but it takes, a village. So my suggestion to you all is it takes fortitude, it takes effort, and it takes monitoring, measuring, and then it takes more fortitude. So don't give up. It's all a bit of an effort, and when you're done, you start over again because there's always kind of more to do. So whatever you're doing, good stuff, keep at it, and get these two and their friends involved because it's all about that. Because when we all get tired, they will be there to sort of say, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And their ability to communicate with each other via social media and via kind of the internet is stuff that we will not be able to touch. And their ability to get to other people within the community is relevant. And they can get people out and get in touch with people that we just don't have that capability. So,
Brad, thank you. That was great.
Thank you for joining me as we present the Environmental Advisory Council's Sustainability Workshop. We'll be back next time with more from the evening's presentations. In the meantime, you can view the workshop in its entirety online. I'd like to thank EAC member David Richmond and one of the township's senior planners, Andrea Campisi, for all their work in organizing the event. I'm Brian Hoppy, Chair of the EAC. We'll see you next time.